Judge, the state didn't have other witnesses scheduled for today.
Judge, yes, I can continue on if the court wants.
Can we approach?
You want to go over here. Over here.
Sidebar conference conducted.
So they told me that this is recording.
Okay, great.
I'm not gonna have Anna go through an examination which might not be very comfortable for her, and I don't really want that to come out. I'm gonna, rather, introduce her deposition, and I can just do that at some other point in time.
Oh, okay.
That will be a good way to do it, I think. I wanted to get more information out of her, but it's not worth it, it's just not, so, Ms. Diener, Judge, may we have a moment to decide whether we want to agree to the deposition in place of her testimony for something in particular before we would agree or object? So if he goes ahead and does another witness and we readdress this issue, would that be permissible?
She's still under subpoena, right?
And she's still under subpoena.
So that.
Yeah, and she'll be here the rest of the day.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I can always bring her back in my...
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I'll just tell her.
My next witness may go past 5 o'clock. Is that something you want to do, Judge?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, 'cause the jury won't be here for the other part.
How far past 5 o'clock?
I don't know, Judge. That's what I'm worried about.
Who is it?
Mitch Catron, he's the first officer that responded to the call from the police department, so he's gonna talk about.
Jennifer's doing him, it's pretty long, I mean, from what I could tell.
Well, then we may.
We can do direct?
They did a deposition of him.
We may.
And so I figured it was gonna be lengthy, that's why.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do. I hate to do it, but I'd rather do a split like that of a professional witness than with a civilian witness, if you're all right with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Judge.
Sidebar conference concluded.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a witness that we can call. It may be a rather lengthy witness, so we may have to split the witnesses direct and cross. We'll just kind of play it by ear and SCE where we're at.
Judge, the state of Indiana would call Officer Mitch Catron. He's coming up now, Judge. Judge, while we're waiting for Deputy Catron to come up, I've had the Steve Mullen put in a zip drive to the computer. It's gonna be a map photo on the screen. The parties are willing to stipulate to that. If the court would allow, I'd like to use it for Deputy Catron, and then I can have Ms. Williams mark it as State's Exhibit 5, I believe, afterwards.
Sure. You're at 5. State's Exhibit 5 admitted by stipulation.
Then, I want to make sure everybody can see this.
Come on up, Deputy.
Thank you, Judge. I apologize.
That's all right.
Deputy Catron, please.
Witness sworn.
Will you state your name, please?
Mitchell Catron,
And how are you employed?
with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office.
And Deputy Catron, I'm gonna ask you to speak up as best you can so that everybody can hear you. So we're having a little bit of issues with the microphone. Sometimes it's amplifying and sometimes it's not. And so just use your best outside voice for me. Does that work?
That'll work.
All right. You're employed with the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And how long have you been employed there?
12 years.
And did you have to go through special training or schooling to be a law enforcement officer?
I did. Indiana Law Enforcement Academy.
And any other special training or education to be a law enforcement officer?
We also go through a field training program, the hiring process.
And have you spent your entire career as a law enforcement officer with Carroll County?
No, I was a reserve deputy in Clinton County for 2 years prior to that.
And so have you been with Carroll County for 10 years?
12 years.
12 years, okay. And have you been in and around Carroll County that entire 12 years?
Yes.
And would you say you're familiar with the area?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been stipulated to, and it's been marked as State's Exhibit 5, and it's a digital map that's on the TV screen here. Can you see that?
I can.
And can you describe the area that that map displays?
Yes. That's County Road 300 North on the top end there. This the Hoosier Heartland, the multi-lane, going at an angle on the left hand of the screen.
And Judge, can I have the witness approach the map so that he may be able to point out some things for the jury so they better understanding the lay of the land?
You may.
Deputy Catron, do you mind coming down? And as you identify landmarks or markers on the map, would you be willing to use this pointer to point those out for me, please?
Sure.
And so you were talking. Where's the Hoosier Heartland?
Could you step to the side?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Can you step?
One side or the other so that the jury can see.
Okay. Sorry.
Good.
Can the jury still see? Okay. How about up here, Deputy? I think there's a MICR off phone close enough. Make sure you use your best outside voice so that we can hear you.
Okay, I'll stand right here.
Okay. Deputy Catron, can you point out the Hoosier Heartland?
That's the Hoosier Heartland right here, this 2-lane highway.
Let's get oriented in direction north, south, east, west. Is the top of the screen north?
This is north to the top of the screen.
Okay. And then east and west is to the left and the right of the screen, correct?
Yep.
And where is the city of Delphi?
It is located over this way. Indicates. I can't see it on this map.
That's fine. So on the left hand of the screen?
Correct.
Just off of the screen?
Correct.
And you pointed out the Hoosier Heartland. Is that correct?
Yes.
Where is the area commonly referred to as the Freedom Bridge?
The Freedom Bridge would be this bridge crossing right there. Indicates.
And it crosses the Hoosier Heartland?
That is correct.
They're not seeing. MR, McClelland, okay. The jury's not seeing the pointer? Is that what? Okay.
We're gonna go the old-fashioned way. We're gonna use your finger, okay?
Okay.
So,
Hoosier Heartland. Indicates.
Hoosier Heartland.
Freedom Bridge. Indicates.
Okay.
This is north.
Let's do this, oop, maybe. Okay. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit. Where's the city of Delphi?
City of Delphi would be over here. Indicates.
All right. Thank you, Deputy. Freedom Bridge again. Can you point that out?
Yep. Freedom Bridge crosses here. Indicates.
And we've referred to a place in prior testimony, the old CPS building. Can you point that out?
Yes. It would have been in this area. Well, it's still there in this map, I believe, right here. Indicates.
Okay. And we've also talked about an area called the Mears Entrance. Can you find that on the map?
This would be this entrance right here. Indicates.
And where does that entrance lead?
So this goes to the trails.
And the Freedom Bridge? Is that connected to the trails?
It is.
Can you tell me? Show me on the map where it's connected to the trails.
The Freedom Bridge crosses here and comes through here, and this whole trail comes along here to this Mears entrance. Indicates.
And if you enter the Mears Entrance and go to the east, where does the trail lead to?
It goes to the Monon High Bridge.
And the Monon High Bridge is where?
Right here. Indicates.
And what is the body of water that crosses underneath the Monon High Bridge?
That would be the Deer Creek.
And can you run your finger along the Deer Creek?
Deer Creek here. Indicates.
I know some of these questions are silly, but I want to make sure the jury has a good understanding of what we're talking about.
Sure.
We've also talked about an area called the Hoosier Harvest Store Business. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
Can you point that out on the map?
It would be this business here. Indicates.
And what does that business? What are they in the business of?
So the Hoosier Harvest Store, my understanding is they have those big blue silos that store silage for cattle, but they also have storage sheds along here as well.
And those long buildings? Are those the storage sheds?
They are.
Okay. I want to take you back to February. I'm gonna ask you to stay at the map, because I'm gonna have you point out some things. I wanted you to stay to my right of the map as best you can so the jury can see the map as you're speaking. I want to take you back to February 17th of 2000. Sorry, February 13th of 2017. Were you on duty that day?
I was.
And what shift were you working?
Day shift, which is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And do you recall getting a call from dispatch around 5:15 p.m. on that day?
I do.
Can you tell me about that?
Dispatch advised that there was a gentleman on the phone wanting to get assistance from us because a couple kids were missing or not showing up where they should be.
And do you know who the gentleman on the phone was?
At that time, no.
Did you answer the phone?
I did.
Did you make contact with the person on the other end?
Yes.
And who was it?
It ended up being Mr. Patty.
And what information did you get from Mr. Patty?
Simply said that he was supposed to pick up these two kids at a location around the Freedom Bridge there. They weren't there. He was getting concerned because they had looked around a little bit and they're at a point where they want to reach out for more help to help look.
Did he indicate where the girls were supposed to be picked up at?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did you find out the names of the girls at that point?
Yes.
And were they?
They were identified as Abby and Libby at the time.
Okay. After you got that information, what did you do next?
I went out. First, I either had dispatch or myself announce it of what I was doing, what the call was. I then drove out to this lane. Indicates this is, I believe, 625 West. If I recall, I could be a little off on that, which goes to a private drive, which is right here. Indicates. Which goes underneath this.
I'm gonna slow you down for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna make the picture a little bit bigger, so we can see what you're talking about. So point out 625 on the map.
So down here is County Road 625 West. Indicates, and then right here.
And I don't want to be elementary, but I want to make sure everybody understands. This white line, is that the private drive?
Yes, it is.
And are there any? I'm sorry, Judge, it's a little awkward. Are there any houses on that private drive?
Not until there is a house here, but there are no other houses until this one here.
And who lives there?
That would be Brad Weber, if I recall correctly.
Judge, can I check? Can the jury still see everything okay? Okay. I just want to make sure before we go too far into this, Judge. Thank you. And so you reported to 625, and I think your testimony was that you proceeded onto the private drive. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you testified the private drive wins back to the house. Where is the Monon High Bridge?
The Monon High Bridge, where it crosses this private drive, is right here.
Indicates.
That was a bad question. Where does the Monon High Bridge start?
It starts in this area right here. Indicates.
And does it start at a place that it is at the end of the trail, what we commonly refer to as at the end of the trail?
That is correct.
And it proceeds across the Deer Creek, is that correct?
Correct.
And it proceeds all the way past the private drive?
That is correct.
If you know, this may be an unfair question. If you know, which way does the water flow?
It should be flowing this way. Indicates.
And so to the northeast would be upstream. Is that fair?
Yes.
And to the southwest would be downstream?
Correct.
Okay. So you went to the private drive. The private drive, when it gets to the Monon High Bridge, tell me about that area there.
So this area here, of course you can't see it, the bridge is very high in the air. This driveway is underneath of it. Although we're looking on top, this bridge is much taller, the driveway goes underneath of it.
So the private drive goes underneath the Monon High Bridge?
That is correct.
Now, even though the Monon High Bridge crosses the Deer Creek, it is much longer than the span of the creek. Is that fair?
That is.
So again, point out where the Monon High Bridge starts.
In this area here. Indicates.
And where does it end?
All the way here.
Okay. And so when you get to the private drive, what do you do?
I get out of my police vehicle there and...
Show me where.
Right here. Indicates.
Okay.
And...
So I would say on the northeast side of the Monon High Bridge?
Right underneath of it, yeah.
Right underneath it. Okay. Is there anybody with you?
No.
Okay. You're by yourself?
Correct.
As you're doing this, are you reporting to dispatch what you're doing?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So you get to that area. What do you do next?
I get out of my police vehicle, I look around this general area just right in here. Indicates.
How far away from your vehicle would you estimate that you looked?
My vehicle was always in my sight, it was not very far.
What is the terrain like there?
This woodsy, very wood-like.
And you said the Monon High Bridge is up above you at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Did you yell?
No.
Did you yell aloud? Abby, Libby, anything like that? Did you turn on your sirens?
No.
Did you turn on your lights?
No.
How long did you? Were you outside your vehicle looking?
I don't recall.
30 minutes? 3 hours?
5 to 7 minutes.
5 to 7 minutes. After you got back in your cruiser, what did you do next?
I proceeded up this driveway. If I can move this...
You're getting the hang of it, I like it. Go ahead, yep.
Thought I'd save you some steps. So I got back in my police vehicle here, continued up this private driveway, and went to this house. Indicates.
And who lives there again?
That was Brad Weber.
At the time, did you know Brad Weber lived there?
No, I did not.
You found that out later?
Correct.
When you got to the residence, what did you do?
Yeah, so I walked up to his front door, knocked on it, made contact with him. I told him why I was out there, I was looking for 2 kids, and I asked if I could look around his property.
Did he allow you to do that?
Yes, he did.
When your interaction with him, what was his demeanor?
Normal, like anyone would be knocking on their door, so...
Was he covered in sweat?
No.
Was he covered in blood?
No.
Did he look disheveled in any way?
No.
Okay. He allowed you to look around his property.
Yes.
If you continue to slide the picture over, and tell me where you looked when you got to his property.
So, essentially, I, asked him. He gave me permission. I walked down this way, out around this area. Indicates. And that was about as far as I went.
Are there outbuildings on his property?
This here. Indicates.
And so that big building we see there on the picture, is that a barn?
I assume so.
Okay.
I'm just recalling off the map. My memory doesn't serve, so...
That's fine. Did you walk around the barn?
Not yet in this area. I don't remember if I actually looped around it or not.
Did you go inside the barn?
No.
Okay. Did you see anything that stuck out to you?
I did not.
Did you see the girls?
I did not.
After you searched that area, what did you do next?
After I searched the area, I got back in my police vehicle, continued on down the driveway. Other night shift units were coming on, and I believe I went home.
And so you went back down the private drive, back down now to 625. Is that correct?
That is correct.
While you're driving out of the private drive, were you looking around?
Yeah.
Were you looking for the girls?
Yes.
Did you see anything?
No.
Now, do you remember what the weather was like this day?
No. At that point in time, it was getting pretty dark out, I believe.
So this is 5:30, 6 o'clock?
Yep.
When did your shift end?
6 p.m.
By the time you got done looking at Brad Weber's, do you remember, was it after 6 o'clock?
Yeah. I believe I may have stayed over. Again, just memory doesn't serve me. I definitely stayed after at least a half an hour by the time I got home, so...
And when you left, was it dark?
Yes.
Okay. And on your way out of the private driveway, did you stop and talk to Mr. Weber again?
Not that I recall.
Did you see anything as you exited the private driveway?
No.
And when you exited, did you come back on 625 heading south?
That is correct.
And did you go back to town?
Negative. I think I went home.
Okay.
So I did not go back towards Delphi.
Okay. On your way down 625, did you see anything?
No.
Did you see the girls?
No.
Okay. At the time that you left work, it was after 6 o'clock?
Correct.
And you were getting updates. As you searched and talked to Mr. Weber, were you getting updates from dispatch on the location of the girls or possible location for the girls?
Not that I recall.
Were you able to gather any other information at that time?
I was not.
Judge, I don't have any other questions. Deputy, you can have a seat back up at the stand. Thank you.
Mr. Rossi, Mr. Baldwin, Ms. Auger. Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Catron?
Catron, yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you went through ILEA, you were taught how to investigate crimes, right?
Yes.
And you're taught to pay close attention to details?
Yes.
Survey areas for evidence?
Sure.
And that continued in your field training?
Yes.
Okay. And so the call originally came in at 5:17 p.m., correct?
That's what the report says, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any reason to believe the report's wrong?
No.
Okay. And you pretty quickly then left the dispatch center where you were?
Yes.
And I believe the dispatch center is at the sheriff's department.
It is.
Okay. How far? I'm directionally challenged.
That's okay.
How far west of the Hoosier Heartland is the sheriff's department?
Oh, half a mile at best.
Okay. Can you recall what time you left the sheriff's department to go to the High Bridge area?
Simply guessing, I would say maybe 5 to 7 minutes after I hung up the phone.
Okay. So we're looking at 5:22 to 5:25?
That's, yep, best recollection.
Pardon?
Best recollection, yes, ma'am.
And how long did it then take you to get out to 625?
I'd say 3 minutes.
And why did you decide to go to the south end of the High Bridge?
So I have previously been to the Weber property for a criminal mischief report to a chicken coop, and I knew that area, and I knew that that driveway went underneath that high bridge, so I thought that'd be a good place to check.
Now, was it daylight when you first arrived out on, where 625 meets the High Bridge?
Yes, it was becoming dark, but there was still daylight out to see.
And on February 13th, you said it was wooded, right?
Yes.
But there weren't leaves on the trees, were there?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So you had decent visibility in that area?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, you got to the High Bridge at 5:47, is that correct?
That sounds right, yes.
Okay. And I'm looking at is that from what you know as the CAD report?
Yes.
Okay. And you spent 5 to 7 minutes searching all over, is that right?
Around the bridge that crosses the driveway, yes.
Okay. You didn't go down the hill to the bottom of the bridge, did you?
I did not.
Okay. And you're listening?
Correct.
Okay. And you did see anybody?
Did not.
You didn't hear anybody?
I did not.
Okay. And then you went on down the access road. Would you mind coming down?
No, absolutely.
So you started here? Indicates.
Yes, I came in this driveway here and drove to here was my first stop.
Indicates.
All right. And how far is it from your first stop here, where the access road meets the High Bridge, to the Weber house property there?
That far, which, I mean, eighth of a mile around there.
Okay. Not very far?
Not very far.
All right. And you got back in your car to drive down to the Weber property, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And while you're driving down that access road, you continue to look?
Yes.
Right. And when you're on this access road, can you see over Deer Creek, across Deer Creek here?
You can see over that direction, but I can't see water to my recollection.
Is that because the access road is higher and, by the time you kind of angle?
That's because of the terrain. In my memory, that's how it was.
All right. So right on the north side of the access road, that's a pretty far drop down to Deer Creek, right?
To my best recollection, yes.
Okay. And so you think that you can see over here?
You can see the wooded area, yes.
All right. And again, no leaves on the trees?
Correct.
Decent visibility?
Yes.
Right. And you don't see anything?
No.
All right. Anne. Deputy, keep your voice up, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe I'll stand over here and you can yell that way. So where did you park at the Weber residence?
Parked in his driveway right in this area somewhere. Indicates.
And when you parked, did you look at all over here?
As I was driving up, I was looking out sideways.
Okay. And when you first got out of the car, did you hear anything?
I did not.
Did you stop to listen?
Always listening.
All right. That's part of your training, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you didn't see anybody, is that correct?
Correct.
Didn't hear anything?
No.
All right. And so then you walked up to Mr. Weber's door?
Yes.
And how long did you speak to Mr. Weber?
A few seconds at best. A minute tops.
It wasn't a long exchange?
It was not.
Okay. And he gave you permission then to look around the property?
Yes.
All right. And to the best of your recollection, can you show us with your finger where you went?
Yes. So my car was parked here, went next to my car and I walked down this direction. Looked in this area. Indicates.
Okay.
Looking out this way. Indicates.
All right. And you did not go into this outbuilding here, correct?
I did not.
And it looks like this is another outbuilding.
Yes.
You did not go into that outbuilding?
I did not.
And how long were you there at the Weber property?
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, at I believe 6:16, you advised check along the trails on private property, is that correct?
If that's what the CAD sheet said, then yes, ma'am.
Okay. And where were you then? What does that mean?
If I announced that I was checking on the trails on the private property, that would have been when I was on this lane somewhere, whether I was just driving down it or had gotten out of my car within that time frame. I was either driving down the trails or getting out of my car at that point.
Okay. At 6:18?
If that's what the CAD sheet says, yes.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection if I showed you the CAD sheet?
Absolutely.
Deputy Catron, I'll show you Defendant's Exhibit C, which is the CAD report.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I'm gonna take it back.
Okay.
Are you done?
Yes, okay.
All right. And so at 6:18, you were on the trails east of the...
Yes, the trail. Checking the trails means I was on this private drive. Checking this is what I was calling the trails.
Okay.
So the high bridge is what I was calling the trails and what I was checking. I was either driving my vehicle on the private drive or out of my car underneath the bridge at that time.
All right. Now, at 5:47, you were at the Monon High Bridge, so if you're there again at 6:18, had you already been out to the Weber property?
No, I would have stopped there first and then gone to the Weber property.
Okay. And you stopped here at 5:47?
Yes.
And then you went to the Weber property?
Yes.
And then you were back here at 6:18?
I don't know that works out with the time frame for radio traffic, but I drove down the private driveway, stopped at the high bridge, went up to his house.
Okay.
As far as the exact minute and times, I don't know.
All right. Now, how they're entered onto the CAD report is that you calling in and telling them what you've done.
I would assume so, yes.
All right. And you think you left about 6:30?
Yes. It was in that area between 6 and 6:30.
Okay.
Around that time.
Now, after you were, how long did you spend as Ching at the Weber property? And when I say Weber property, this is all Weber property, but...
Yes.
I'm talking about either this field and the buildings there, is that fair?
Yes. Again, how long it takes me to walk out of my car, walk down here, it wasn't an extensive amount of time. So within the, 5 to 10 minute range.
Okay. And then you left, going back out the access road?
That is correct.
Okay. And you're still observing?
Yes.
Are your windows down?
I don't recall.
All right. You didn't see anybody?
Correct.
All right. And did you stop again here on your way out?
Not that I recall.
All right. You can sit back down. Thank you. Now, can you come back down?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
Is there, when you come off the top of the high bridge, were you ever?
I have never been on top of the high bridge.
Okay. So do you know where it goes? If there's a trail that continues on?
So my understanding is that it goes out here and just diminishes, that there's no further trail that's designated as the trails or the bridge.
Okay. All right. Well, then I didn't even need to bring you down here, then.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I won't do it again. Now, you're aware that during that evening, after you left and went home, there was a very extensive search, is that right?
So when I went home, I knew that other units were looking. I was not made aware of the magnitude of people that were coming out.
And was it, when you left at about 6:30, was it dark?
Yes.
Did you see any flashlights?
I did not.
You also, after February 13th, you were pulled off of road duty?
Yes, that's correct.
And you worked the tip line?
Yes.
Okay. And that consisted of receiving tips and going out and investigating them?
I apologize, so I did not do any phone calls on the tip line, it was simply.
Okay. Do you recall how many tips you followed up on?
I do not. It was several.
How long was that your job to follow up on those tips?
It wasn't a full year. I would say several months out of the year. I don't recall how many months it was.
And did you ever investigate any tips related to Richard Allen?
I did not.
Did you ever hear of any?
No.
I have some questions that are probably outside the scope of direct. Do you want me to do it now or call him back?
Judge, may we approach?
Sure. Go over here.
Sidebar conference conducted.
Judge, I don't have any problem with her doing those as long as they're relevant to what we're discussing at this point.
Relevant to what?
What we're discussing at this point, the part of his job.
Oh, no.
The tips leads.
Just courthouse security stuff.
How is that relevant to the guilt or innocence of Richard Allen?
I think it's very relevant in that being. I mean, we're going to be talking a lot about the circumstances of his detention and whether he can have private conversations with his attorneys. That's about 3 questions.
In the deposition, there was a lot of focus on that, especially about why can't I have, inaudible, and I don't see how that's relevant to this deputy, and I would object to any questions involving that, Judge.
Yeah, I don't know how that's relevant. Oh. Well, I mean, that's our presentation will be the circumstances of his detention and how that has led to the deterioration of his physical and mental state and the circumstances surrounding these incriminating statements. What does that have to do with him? Well, because... Is he a jailer? He's in charge of courthouse security, and so it's his job. Well, courthouse security is different from jail security. We can make an offer of proof. Okay.
No.
Okay. And then we'll be done for the day.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Sidebar conference concluded.
All right. Mr. McClelland, you've got any redirect?
Judge, yes. Thank you. Just 2 questions. Officer Catron, I'm gonna have you stay on the witness stand, but at any time while you were driving out of Weber's driveway, that private drive, did you ever stop and go down to the creek and look in this area?
No.
Anytime you looked in this area, was it from your vehicle?
Yes.
And is your testimony here today that you didn't see anything in this area?
That is correct.
Is your testimony here today that since you didn't see anything in that area, or since you didn't see any bodies in that area, there were not any bodies in that area? Is that your testimony today?
I mean, I did not see any there, that is my testimony.
So you didn't see any, but your testimony is not that there. Just because you didn't see them, they weren't there?
That is correct.
Objection, asked and answered.
I don't have any other questions, Judge.
All right. Thank you, officer. Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. May I? I'm sorry. Yes, you may. Thank you. So 5:47, you're here. Indicates, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you spent 5 to 7 minutes looking here?
Yes, as best as memory serves, yes.
Okay. I wrote some times. 5:17, I'm sorry, so from 5:22 to 5:25-ish, you're here?
Yes.
Okay. And as you're driving down then, between 5:30, about 5:30, would that be right?
Yes.
Okay. Here. And spent 5 to 7 minutes here again? Indicates.
Yes.
Okay. So we're at 5:35 to 5:37?
Yes.
Okay. And then we go back down the access road about 5:40?
Yes.
And you don't see anything here at that time?
That is correct.
No further questions. Juror questions of Deputy Mitchell Catron. Does anybody on the jury have any questions for the officer? You have a question. All right, if counsel would approach, please.
Sidebar conference conducted.
Is it common for people walking the trail to stop and turn around at the high bridge? Or does the trail continue onto the ravine on the north side of the river?
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
That's fine. I don't know that he can.
He'll be answer it.
What? Inaudible. I don't think he answer it, but I don't want to keep the jury. I don't want to. Want me to couch it if you know? If you know. Would that be acceptable? Yes.
Inaudible.
Just have a seat.
Okay. Yes, Judge.
That way, it doesn't look weird.
Sidebar conference concluded.
All right. Deputy, if you know, is it common for people walking the trail to stop and turn around at the high bridge?
I do not know.
Any follow-up, Mr. McClelland?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Auger? No, Your Honor. Does the trail continue onto the ravine on the north side of Deer Creek, if you know?
I do not know.
Any follow-up, Mr. McClelland?
Judge, just point of clarification. Follow-up examination of Deputy Mitchell Catron. My understanding of the question, Deputy, is there a trail that continues down to the creek, instead of going onto the high bridge? Do you know if there is or not?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Judge. No other questions.
Ms. Auger? No. All right. Thank you, Deputy. You may step down.